Week 6 of high school football is in the books, and we just have 3 unbeatens remaining in Class A. Welcome in to another episode of the Nebraska Prep Zone Report. I'm Dillon Adams, joined once again by Mike Patterson and Stu Pospisil. And guys, I mean, we predicted last week better games were on the way, but we kind of got spoiled on Friday night. I mean, Stu, we had the Prep Central overtime thriller. Got to get to your game, PAT, that you witnessed, the Bell West Gretna. Kearney holding off Grand Island. We even had Millard West being tested all the way by Millard North. So lots to get to, but I think we should start with kind of a big picture here. Stu, your column is out today here on a Monday morning. It's one of our top stories right now on Omaha.com, talking about number 1 West Side and their brutal backloaded schedule.
Well, they could go undefeated opponents, and I did a pretty extensive digital search of our archives. I can't find another time this late in the year where a team undefeated has played undefeateds back-to-back. Now, That said, Millard South, for one thing, Westside needs to win at Kearney, right, and then Millard South needs to win at Columbus to get for this year, epic 1-versus-2 battle at Millard South on Friday the 13th. But, Westside continues to roll. They're averaging 50 points a game, giving up 4. Their first-team defense has given up 1 touchdown. You saw that one, Mike, against Bellevue West. The other points that Westside has given up was, again, you saw that, the kickoff return by Zach McLay of Omaha Creighton Prep.
Right.
So this is a team that so far has dominated on both sides of the ball. It's going to definitely be a step up in competition, these next 2 weeks, because Kearney is going to try and grind it out, kind of what Lincoln East tried to do with Millard South last week. I'm not sure Kearney can achieve that, but again, it's going to get colder later in the week. We don't know exactly what weather will be. Once you get into October, weather starts to get a little different. What ifs as far as, okay, it's hot now, but you could get cold, wet. We've had thunderstorms last week up in northeast Nebraska, and then if it comes down Westside Millard South, it's a totally different game than Westside Kearney.
Yeah.
Where Millard South has the firepower, and knowing last year that game went to overtime, and Westside needed an overtime stop and then score for 34-28. So I'm looking forward to these next 2 weeks big time.
Me too. And, I was thinking about it, kind of formula, if you will, to beat Westside, unless you're talking about that weird one against North Platte last year. It's been a really good quarterback, right? Zane Flores and Gretna took Westside to the brink 2 years in a row. But they also the Dragons had that big physical defense. And it kind of looks like that's what the Pats have, too. I mean, they have this really good Jet Tamala. I mean, he's played well almost every single week.
As a sophomore.
Yes. And then, again, that really good defense. I mean, they had another pick 6 this last week against Lincoln East. Is that correct?
Dylan Kuhl's got 3 on the season. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good, heady accomplishment.
Right.
I want to say maybe the Class A record's 5 in a season, pick 6s. He's got a shot to do that if, you would think teams might stop throwing his way, but it was in less than 4 minutes, Millard South put 28 points on the board in the fourth quarter. Just obviously the game just changed. Lincoln East had done what it needed to. Jeter Worthley had thrown a couple touchdowns and scored one himself, but once the cork came out of the bottle, Millard South poured out the points.
Yeah. Jackson, sorry, PAT, I don't mean to interrupt you, but who was it here? Amarian Jackson. Yes, he was the burner that he took back a punt.
Well, that he muffed. I mean, it was kind of like the Michigan returner on Saturday, where the ball bounces right back up to him, and he's in stride. It's not like he fumbled to get; it just came right back up waist level. He takes off with it.
Wow!
And nobody was going to catch him. I mean, He's a speed merchant, and Millard South on both sides, like Westside does. There are plenty.
There's plenty of them. So yeah.
I was just going to say, weather-wise, I think it was 85 maybe at Bellevue West on Friday night, and I think it's supposed to be 39 on Friday. So we're in for an abrupt change.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Dylan Kuhl. I saw one of those TD returns, interceptions. I know you've seen at least one,
I've
and
seen
maybe
two.
the other two.
Yeah.
So that's just great anticipation by him. You can tell he's just kind of laying back, waiting for it. And, an interception return for a TD like that can really turn a game.
Demoralize the team that threw it. But Lincoln East, I kept in the rankings at number 10. Papio, which is 5-1, probably
Right.
the next one in line. Plays Central this week. Touchdown Prep and Central, 34-28. Central scored with less than 2 minutes left, made the 2-point conversion. The running back that McGee, who hadn't played all game, senior, Coach Terrence Mackey thought, okay, a little good change of pace. He went 29 yards in 2 plays to get the score to 28-26, and then got the 2-point conversion. And then for Central, Prep popped the ball out, second play of overtime, and on its second play, Prep, Jacob Ruby went 14 yards. But great game situation down there. Central, I'd say Central and West Side have the two best home field atmospheres. For West Side's kind of tucked in the neighborhood and all these mature trees, and Central's got the Omaha skyline.
Yeah.
And those are two fun places to hang out on a Friday night.
I think we never really thought they could jam a stadium like that in at Central, but they did such a nice job. And like you said, that's one of the kind of iconic venues now to cover a game. And then they're always playing downtown by Petula Clark after the game. And it's just...
Collins Stadium is nice. They had converted the old athletic park that, 75 years worth. It had been, we're going to put something down there. We're going to put something down there. And it was the pit, the whole... they did it up well, and especially for soccer down there, and I'm still partial to the alma mater. Benson Stadium was much better when they didn't have the track around it, where you had the stands really on the sidelines. But still a nice place on a fall evening with foliage.
Speaking of places where you didn't think they were going to be able to put a
Roncalli.
Stadium in, my alma mater,
There you go.
Roncalli,
Shout out.
put that stadium in. It's grass. I know they've talked about turfing it, so we'll see if that happens. But that's a nice
Gross
place.
has turf. They just need stands,
Right.
and that's a nice place to. During COVID they had a couple games there because I think maybe they had their whole season because Bryan was off limits because OPS wasn't playing, so they didn't open the stadiums up to the parochials to rent out back in 2020. So, Mike, how about your thriller at Feynman Field?
Yeah, we got to get to that.
Yeah, that was something. Gretna playing at Bellevue West, and Bellevue West went right down the field with their first possession, and we thought, okay, here they go, the Thunderbirds, and they didn't do much offensively the whole rest of the game, thanks in part to the stout Gretna defense, and Gretna did enough. They scored a touchdown in the second quarter to tie it. They scored a touchdown in the third quarter to go ahead 13-7. They missed the extra point, which was key. It got blocked. And so Bellevue West is trailing 13-7 with 4 minutes left, and they're punting the ball out of their own end zone. They were punting from the 5-yard line.
They were lined up to punt.
Yes.
Lined up to punt.
But Dylan and I were talking a little bit before we got on, and it's, Bellevue West's punter is also their quarterback. So you got to be thinking in the back of your mind, even if he's punting from his own end zone, we might see something offbeat here. And sure enough, Mike Huffman, the Bellevue West coach, really rolled the dice there, called the fake. The throw went to C.J. Goff, and he did most of the running. It wasn't like it was a downfield pass. He caught the ball about the line of scrimmage. He made it out to the 20, and that was just enough for the first down.
Wow.
And after that, they had all the momentum, and 4 fairly long passes later, the T-Birds were in the end zone, and they pulled out the 14-13 victory. But I didn't get a chance to talk to Mike Huffman after the game, but for deadline purposes. But that was, we always called Sandy Buda at UNO the Riverboat Gambler. But, man, that was a call that I'm not even sure the Riverboat Gambler might have made.
Yeah, 4th and 14 from way back inside
Mike
the 5.
usually eschews the kicking game, be it kickoffs or extra points or punts. I mean, but yeah, this might have been the greatest gamble I know of in his 10-plus years down at Bellevue West.
The only thing I could think of was Florida State some years ago did a fake punt, and it was from their own end zone. And boy, if you're doing it from there, you've definitely got the element of surprise. And Florida State had that, and Bellevue West had it on Friday night. And, it'll be interesting to see where the T-Birds go from that momentum-changing victory, because they haven't had the season that they were hoping for to this point, but we'll see where this leads the T-Birds.
Do you think they're dangerous enough to make only getting 14 points, only 2 touchdowns? Do they have the offense and the defense to go deep in the playoffs? I mean, are they somebody that, because I haven't seen them since the first couple weeks.
Right. It's hard to say. It remains to be seen. They did not do much offensively after that first drive, but they went down the field so easily. I really thought they were going to kind of roll it up. And, I mean, it was 7-7 at halftime, and that's two teams that you're thinking about, okay, there's going to be a lot more points scored. So I think that says something about both defenses. But, they did enough to win. I know if they would have lost that game, you don't know where their season goes then. So.
Yeah.
Aren't they playing Bellevue East this week, the rivalry
Next week.
game? Okay.
Or is it this week?
It's coming up
That's
soon.
one of the, maybe it is this week, then they had the week off, and then they finish, and I forget who they finish
Right.
with.
Yeah, because they had the week 0 game.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
You'd have to think they would be favored in that rivalry game and, have some momentum here down the stretch. So, again, it's worth watching to see where it goes from here for Bellevue West.
It really all comes down to that fake punt, though. I think that really could be a season-defining play if they go ahead and close out the season strong going into the postseason. If that goes the other way, they obviously are going to lose that game.
And they fall to 3-4.
I mean...
And Creighton Prep felt it had to beat Central to stay alive with its playoff hopes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, these are still 2 of the top 10 teams in the state, in my mind, that, Papio plays Central and Prep back-to-back.
Right. And then they close with North Platte, and that's a home game, so they don't have to make the trip out west. So we'll see. I mean, they'll have a chance to get our attention. And, and
they had it once and lost to Southeast, and Southeast kind of a disappointing season for them.
Yeah.
Losing to Miller North's only win is against Southeast, and that kind of again tells you that the power centers remains the Metro.
Right. And that was kind of a weird result, too. I think it was 10-7, that Papio game against Southeast.
Yep.
It was,
yep.
it was a grinded-out game.
Well,
so.
and you had to worry about the letdown, which may have happened after beating Papio South.
Sure.
7,000 people in the stands for that one. And then Southeast, the solid team, but, again, if Miller North's another one that if they could get into the playoffs, and I'm not sure they can now at 1-5. I mean, they're going to finish with kind of a soft. They'll be 4-5, but they're going to be right on the cusp of getting in or staying out. And, I have them 4th in the preseason.
Sure.
Expectations were high, and it just haven't had some of the breaks go their way, and they could have maybe beaten Prep, and that was 24-19. Maybe the season looks a little different, but and they gave it 3 touchdown passes from Peterson to Jackson Williams. Last week lost 28-21. That's another one they're probably kicking themselves.
I think that game was tied in the 4th.
It
right?
was.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Millard North led that 21-14.
Yep. I think you're right. Yeah. So, that's just how it goes. Some of these games flip the wrong way, and
again, this is some teams are your traditional powers are getting front-loaded heavy schedules, and again, how do you you don't envy the NSAA for trying to make things equitable for all people. The one thing I'd like to see is maybe break up the district slate and play 1 or 2 games earlier, maybe 2 non-district, then a district, then maybe a non-district, and then a district, a non-district, and then finish up your...
I kind of like that, yeah.
Because, we're seeing in major college, you're not seeing a complete slate of non-conference games, and of course that's for TV reasons.
Right.
It's not for competitive equity. It's for the almighty dollar.
But we've seen that over the years in basketball too, right? They're
Right.
going to put those conference games
In December
spread them
now,
out, yes, before Christmas break.
Again,
and-
for content.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yep, keep those networks happy. So
So, but anyway, I'll be at Westside Kearney. Mike, I think, is going to go to Blair to Elkhorn. That's a 4:30 game, followed by Grand Island versus Elkhorn South at 8 that night. Class C1, some interesting matchups. Aurora, Adams Central, Broken Bow at Minden, Central City at Pierce, Columbus Lakeview at Douglas County West is a great story in the making. 5-1. SDC West, I don't believe they've ever been to the playoffs.
really,
So I think they've got especially beating Lakeview. They've still have Wahoo to play, and Wahoo has SCOTUS this week, which DC West beat last week. So great. It's a very loaded district that Lakeview and SCOTUS and DC West and Wahoo are in.
yeah.
And that's going to help their power points and that. And so
Those are all, annual contenders in that
Yep.
in that district for sure. Yeah.
And then in the rankings, it's still Westside in A, Bennington in B. In C1 is Boone Central. Norfolk Catholic beat Battle Creek number 1 versus number 2 in a storm delayed game, 24-19. And then in the 8 and 6 man, the only change at the top I made, I put Sumner Eddyville Miller past Arthur County into first. North Platte St. Pat's, and South Loop had the 8-man classes.
Alrighty. And I think we already ran down the top games this week. So if we want to move into volleyball, PAT, you just sent me the rankings. I got to get those posted on our
Right.
website here this morning. But not much movement in our top 10.
Actually, none in
Yeah.
the overall top 10. It was a pretty quiet week, Dylan. Papio South is still number 1. They didn't play last week. 25-0, still nationally ranked in the top 10. Scott 2, Norris 3, Lincoln East 4, Elkhorn North 5, Lincoln Southwest 6, Grand Island 7, Papio 8, Minden 9, and Lincoln Lutheran 10. And our number ones in classes are Papio South in A, Scott in B, Minden still undefeated, the Whippets, number 1 in C1, Lincoln Lutheran, number 1 in C2. Their win streak, I believe, is at 68 in a row now. Our new number 1 in Class D1 is West Point Guardian Angels Central Catholic. Southwest, the previous number 1, was defeated by Overton. So, the Blue Jays move up to number 1, and undefeated O'Neill St. Mary's is number 2 right behind them. And Southwest is 3, and D2 Overton remains number 1. So a couple of the top matches this week, Dylan. Elkhorn North is at Gretna East on Tuesday night. Papio, Marion, and the other team, Pius, play their annual triangular on Thursday. I should have known that because I'm writing about Pius this week. They had a really good week last week. They won the Northeast Invitational. Papio South is at Burke. Not that that'll be a super competitive match, but that'll be Papio South back in action after a 15-day layoff. And Saturday is the Centennial Conference Tournament. I think those finals are at SCOTUS, so you're going to have Lincoln Lutheran in action there, putting their long win streak on the line. So another good week of volleyball ahead.
Absolutely. So I think the only team to lose in the top 10 was Scott. They were out in Chicago over the weekend, I saw. They were playing some really tough opponents.
They lost twice, and Scott is always that X factor because they have the record is not all that glittering. They're 12-8. But I think their only loss to a Nebraska team is to number 1 Papio South, and the other 7 losses have come in these national tournaments. I know one of the teams that they got beat in Chicago is nationally ranked.
Yes.
So
I think it featured a Badger commit, Madison Quest, 5-star athlete. I was reading up on some of these teams that were playing. It's really impressive. So you know that the Skyhawks are still going to be around. They'll still be up there come December. So
I'm glad you mentioned Scott Dillon, because I think maybe their Skyhawk Invitational is this weekend also.
okay.
So I'll have to check on that. But I'm sure Scott and Papio South will be playing at some point during that tournament. So something else to watch on Saturday.
yeah, should be an action-packed weekend. I'm going to be a little busy this weekend, though. So
Yes, congratulations
So we
in
heard.
advance.
thank you very
Dylan's
much.
getting married, everyone.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Dylan.
So I'll be up in Ponca enjoying that, but I'll be back next week so we can cover these number 1 versus number 2 matchups that we'll most likely have.
You taking the sticks for the rehearsal day golf at
Highland Oaks? Yeah, you bet. I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be a lot of fun.
This time of year, you'll play the leaf rule.
Yeah, exactly.
But for those who don't, Highland Oaks is adjoining Ponca State Park. Right now, this time of year, the fall foliage should be just absolutely gorgeous, and there'll be a big backdrop for your wedding photos, I'm guessing, as well.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to that. So we had that planned. I think we had the tee times set quite a while ago for that. I made sure to book those up for everybody. So
And your 2 friends from the high school show here are also invited, right?
yeah, you guys can come up and join us if you
I'm
want.
going to try and figure out how to get from Ponca to Kearney.
Yeah, right. Cross-country travels.
Dylan's
so.
from Mitchell, South Dakota, so there's a rumor that the honeymoon's going to be at the Corn Palace.
I thought that
Yeah, I
was
think we
the
can-
reception hall.
I think we can rent that out, right?
Okay, yeah, rent the castle.
Another place that's spectacular in the fall.
Exactly. So, all right, guys, we can wrap it up for today. Thanks, high school sports fans, for listening. We'll be back to recap Week 7 next week.